Hey, this is Mark Williams here, just picking up on part three of my awakening journey. And I talked previously about this witness consciousness and getting some space, realizing that I'm not my thoughts, I'm not who I thought I was, having these energetic experiences of cosmic consciousness, integrating that. And now I'd like to talk about an important aspect of it that I haven't discussed yet, which is surrender. I really think at some point after these energetic experiences, I got to a place where I realized that this whole awakening thing is doing itself. I stopped feeling like the doer of awakening. I stopped feeling like the seeker of awakening. I stopped feeling like the seeker of something out there or of some future moment when I am something different. All of that stopped. And there was just a deep sense of calm and a sense that this is taking care of itself and that I can trust my intuition. And that is so important to just realize that when you have doubts, these are just thoughts. Doubts are just thoughts. They're just stories. Truly, you can trust your intuition. You absolutely can trust your intuition. You have to develop it, learn to recognize its voice, but you can trust it. So hold on to that the next time you experience doubts, and maybe you can see that a little bit differently. So this started to really do itself, and then it just turned into a surrender and trust, that I could surrender and trust life in every situation, in small things, in big things. And one of my practices during that time was just to recognize all of the unnecessary suffering, all of the thoughts, all of the ways that I wasn't surrendering to life. Like, I'll give you a small example of something small, and I'll give you some larger examples. So this pivotal moment I'll never forget. I was at the grocery store. I had to pick up some stuff at the grocery store, and I was agitated, and I noticed this thought: I hate going to the grocery store. And I just laughed at the absurdity of that thought. That here I am, like this narrative, we're creating an identity on the fly, right? The one who hates going to the grocery store, right? Well, that's just a thought. There's no truth in that. There's no value in that. And so I dropped it, and I decided that I was going to make going to the grocery store a meditative experience. And I started enjoying going to the grocery store. I started enjoying driving. I started enjoying all these things that I said I hated, because those were just made up stories. I come to realize that life itself did not need to change. The circumstances didn't need to change. I just needed to drop the stories that were keeping me from just enjoying life as it is. And then the surrender got much deeper. And this is important to realize, that we can practice surrender in the small things. You can notice the same thing. Maybe you're driving, and maybe you don't realize, like, why am I in a hurry all the time when I'm not actually late for anything? Like, we can notice these patterns. Or, why do I always get triggered in this situation? Why do I always have an outsized response to this minor little thing? We can notice all that stuff, and we can work right there in the small things. And when we do that, those habits pay off in the big things. When the real, shit hits the fan, And we really have to test surrender. And I'll give you an example of that as well now. So, actually, this one is pretty recent. This is early 2025. My wife had a heart surgery, and it went terribly wrong. She almost died on the table, and it set off a whole series of, pretty much being a year of taking care of her. And there's a couple things that stand out in particular. Actually, I'll name three events from that time period that really stand out to me. The first was when I was in the intensive care with her, and just watching her, and she had this episode where she literally flatlined right in front of me. I literally watched the heart rate monitor go down to zero. Talk about a intense situation. But what I noticed was the surrender kicked in there. The acceptance kicked in there like immediately. Like, I'm not saying it was a pleasant experience. I'm not saying that there wasn't stress involved with it. But what I'm saying is that there was also this deep peace that kind of wrapped around this very, very challenging circumstance. And then later, she had a number of hospital stays, and there was this other day when she had this 10 out of 10 pain, just excruciating pain. Very difficult, of course, to see somebody you love in just maximum pain, and there's nothing you can do about it. And so I took her to the cardiologist, and he realized immediately we got to get her to the hospital. And so they got her in the ambulance, and I remember I went to my car to follow her over from the hospital, and I just wept uncontrollably. I cried my eyes out. It was so painful. But what's so interesting is that I fully immersed myself in that grief. It was like universe as grief. There was only grief. And there was a certain peace and beauty that was also alongside that I can't really fully explain. It's hard to explain unless you've experienced something like that. But I just realized this grief is beautiful. This grief is exactly, precisely what is meant to happen right now. This grief is an expression of love. It's a beautiful expression. And so in that, I found something beautiful that I never would have imagined. And then the final one I'll share from that period of time was, let's see, she was on her third or fourth hospital stay. It's hard to keep track now which one it was, but I was passing kidney stones. And any of you have been through that, you know what a painful experience that is. Well, one night in the middle of the night, while she was at hospital, I honestly felt like my organs were shutting down. I felt I didn't know if I was dying. It was just absolutely excruciating pain. And I remember, again, the surrender that kicked in during that pain. And I realized I drove myself to the emergency room. And so here I am in the emergency room. She's on the fourth floor. And I'm just sitting there accepting the situation, getting tested, just doing what needs to be done. And there is this peace that is going on that is inexplicable. This beautiful peace. Again, I'm not saying this was a pleasant experience that I certainly wouldn't choose this experience. but that's what was happening. And so, again, a deep surrender to what's happening. And part of that surrender comes about from just realizing this idea that there's a certain emptiness to experience, that there's a certain sense in which there is no permanence, there is no ground to this whole experience. There is just a flow of experience happening, and there is no one actually separate that it's happening to. It's just this flow of experience. And there's something about allowing yourself to just fall into that groundless flow of experience that, once it's integrated, becomes a really beautiful way to live. It's very freeing. There's a great liberation that does take place when that's your experience of life. Thank you for listening. If there's any parts here that you'd like clarified or me to expand on, please let me know. I'd love to hear about your awakening experiences. Can you relate to this? Are there some parts that are unclear to you? I would love to hear from you. Thanks.